wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish I could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree. Everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree. Everyone should be free. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I soar to the sun and look down on the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
Good morning, church. I understand it's about 10:30. Uh-huh. We're checking our watches, aren't we? Well, I am pleased to inaugurate this series of sources of our faith. We have a living tradition, which is to say we are non-creedal, which is to say we are alive. And because of that, I believe the sources are not taken so seriously. You know, it's written down, and that's not where we dwell. We dwell in the now. So it's good, though, to go back every now and then and visit what others saw fit to put down. Our justices of the Supreme Court understand that now, that our Constitution is a living document. Well, at least 5 understand that. But that's good enough. That's good enough. So anyway, our sources, let's look at a little history. For some of you who may not know, the Unitarian Universalist Association was created in 1961. I know you say, well, wait a minute, Unitarians came over on the boats from Europe, fleeing religious persecution. Yes, they did, but they were not called the Unitarian Universalist Association. All right? The Unitarian Universalist Association came into being with the merger of the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America. And they came together to form the UUA. Well, that was 1961. And we celebrate 1961 as the merger, but there were talks and works going up to 1961. You just don't merge. You have to have some work done. So in 1960, some folks came up with these principles and sources, and they put them in the bylaws. It was only one source, though. And they said we will examine and visit these again every 15 years. Because they understood that, we're going to have to be in the now. So every 15 years, they said we will revisit. And in fact, they did. And in 1985, they came up with 5 sources, right? Then again, in 1995, they added a 6th source. And then folks forgot every 15 years they're supposed to be doing something, right? And then suddenly there was a scramble to say, okay, we got to get busy. And right now, even as we speak, there is discernment going on about these sources and principles. And some of the preliminary work has erased the 6 sources, the bullet point, 6, to a paragraph. Because people said, the 2 main sources are Unitarian and Universalist, and they're not listed here. They said Unitarian, that's like you don't have to think alike to love alike, and one God, And Universalist, this is the elevator speech of what a Unitarian is, right? And then the Universalist elevator speech says, not hell, but hope and courage and kindness and love from God. So they said, we need to have something like that in there. So some people wanted that. Other folks said, we need to mention Far Eastern religions. We don't mention those in our sources. Others said, we need to talk about the fact that we are anti-racism, anti-oppressive. So there's a lot of conversation going on about sources. But on this day, we're going to look at 6. Now, what are these 6 sources? Get ready, drum roll. Number 1, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures that moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. More about that in a minute. Number 2, words and deeds from prophetic women and men who challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. I like that one. Number 3, wisdom of the world's religions that inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. Number 4, Jewish and Christian teachings that call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. And number 4, what was that? 5, number 5. Humanist teachings that counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Hear that now, y'all who like the point now. Hear that. And then finally, number 6, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions that celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Those are our 6 sources. Aren't you glad you came today to hear me say them? Amen. Well, let's talk about that first one, because that's what we're going to spend some time on this morning. Check your watches. Direct experience. And I heard somebody not too long ago talking about direct experience. They said Jerome and his faithful dog, Bob, were walking in the woods. And Jerome and Bob came upon a bear, a massive hulk of animal. Bob immediately turned around and ran. But Jerome looked at the bear, and the bear ran at Jerome. So Jerome turned and he ran. He ran right into a cave. He said, oh my. He turned back, and the bear was at the opening of the cave, advancing. Jerome dropped to his knees and he said, oh Lord, please make this bear a Christian. He opened his eyes and he looked, and the bear looked at him. And he looked back at the bear, and the bear looked at him. And then the bear dropped to his knees, put his paws together, and said, oh Lord, thank you for this meal. You see, there is a perspective to direct experience. Direct experience, it depends, direct experience. And that's why it's not just direct experience. It doesn't stop there. It says, of that transcending mystery and wonder. Okay. Some of us have had transcending mysteries and wonder. But does that mean that you're in the UUA sources with that? Not quite, church. Because there's some caveats to this. It says, affirmed in all cultures. So it's not just you in your experience. Affirmed in all cultures. You know, so often we read biblical texts and we don't really understand what it says, but we listen to what is preached and we say, well, that must mean what it says, what the preacher said. But so often our ministers have been told and taught incorrectly. Let me tell you something. When you hear the word God-fearing, when you hear the word God-fearing and you focus on the fearing, you think of a wrathful God. You think of a punitive God. And so you're afraid of that kind of God. But church, that's not really what that word is. It's not fearing. It has to do with awe, A-W-E. When you are struck by something that is transcending, it takes you somewhere else, mystery and wonder, and you are struck, you're not afraid as much as you are riveted in your tracks. Wow, look at that. And it could be music, it could be art, it could be a rainbow, it could be the northern lights and seeing all those colors. It could have been Friday when you were in Washington, D.C., and you saw the rainbows, colors put on the White House. And you thought, wow, look at that. Awe. That's what God-fearing means, awe. There is a portrait that hangs at Church of the Restoration, where I am the minister. And it's a picture of a man who is halfway turning away, but he's looking at something. And his mouth is open, and his hands are like, wow. And the title of that portrait, the title of that painting is Awe. That's what a direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures. That's awe, church. But then we move beyond, because once again, that's not enough. Someone would say, okay, if you have an awestruck moment and you feel that that's part of something that is present in other cultures, you should start your own church. It should be the church of Gerald, or the church of Barbara, or the church of whoever, because you're legitimate. You had a direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder. But that's not it. That's not it. Because the rest of that says that moves us. That moves us. So let's talk about that for a minute. So often, church, when we come to places of worship, movement is not part of what we do. We sit. We might nod our heads. Occasionally we will clap. But we don't move. At least some churches don't move. Now, you know, I grew up as a Baptist, but our church was known as the bougie Baptist. You know, those folks would say, amen, yes, and they would nod their heads, but they wouldn't move either. Now, there were other churches that actually moved. Those were shouting churches, where folks would jump up and raise their hands. And I'm telling you, if you don't know what's going on, that could be a scary moment. I have told this story before, but we may have visitors, and you may not have heard this story. But I was in seminary in Pittsburgh, and one of the members of our student body was an older man who had a church, but he was going back to seminary to get his seminary education. So he was well ahead of us. We were neophytes. He had pastored many, many years. And he invited some of us to his church. And so I went as a young neophyte, callow youth. And I sat down and I discovered this is a shouting church. Because folks were shouting and jumping up. And this lady jumped up in front of me and she walked down the aisle in back of me. And I didn't, I looked, but I didn't want to stare. And she came back down the aisle right by me and she slapped me in the back of my head. Church, she went, pow! And I thought, was that an accident? But that's what happens sometimes in shouting churches. People, they move, right? But I'm here to tell you, we have to understand that we are not to judge. Those who wrote that source said, moves us to a renewal of spirit. Renewal of the spirit, suggesting you already have it, but maybe you may have been out of touch because you've been doing daily work, daily tasks, and all of that daily stuff, all has not been in there. And so you haven't seen all, you haven't been in all, all is not part of your vocabulary. You've been taking care of business. And as you are going on doing your thing, boom, it hits you. Whatever that is, it makes you stop. You quit talking, and you begin to feel. And when you start feeling, you start moving. You want to do something. That's the renewal of the spirit within you that says, thank you. I'm saying, I've been here. I'm so glad that you remember me. And so that renewal of the spirit has to do with awakening. Some folks will call it transformation, but it's an awakening of that spirit that is in all of us. And that spirit moves us. We do things because of that spirit. Some folks are musicians. You heard a beautiful voice, Annie Ellicott. Beautiful. She is singing. Do you know that she is moved? That's why she sings like that. And that pianist, I think that was Rick Fortner, wasn't it? That Rick Fortner is moving because something is moving within him. That spirit that he has been touched. And his fingers are responding to it. Both of those folks are responding to a call. That call is saying, go on and play it like you know. Go on and sing it like you know. Go on and feel it. And then let others feel what you are feeling. Because that's going to touch them. It touched me. I was ready to jump up. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I believe that Reverend President deviated just a little bit from the script. Because he said, I'm feeling something here. I got to say it. And he boomed out, amazing grace. I said, no. That's why he's Reverend President. Because he allowed that renewing in his spirit. And we have that, church. We have that. You are a Unitarian Universalist who understands that there is direct experience. That is all around you. You look out that window, you cannot live fully without experiencing this. And it may not be like something you may have read or heard about where people just lose their minds and fall out and all that. It's awe. It's just something that says, hey, you have touched something that is real. Slow down and receive it because you are being called. And those musicians feel it all the time. That's how they improvise. That's spontaneous composition. That's coming from somewhere else. And so they're in communication. So it's not just musicians, it's us too. Get in that kitchen and start cooking. You start moving as you're cooking it, and put on some music. Stop for a minute and turn around. That's good for you. That's healthy. Move. All right, if you don't want to move, go to a massage. Get a massage. Then someone is moving on you and you will feel something. But I'm trying to tell you that's what it is to be a human. It is not to just be sedentary. It is to move. Some folks love to run, and they talk about the high they experience from just running. Yes, that comes with the territory. If you're a human being, that's expected. And so many people are not in touch with that spirit. But Unitarians say, oh yeah, it is. Direct experience. Moves us to a renewal of the spirit and openness. Now that's a Unitarian word right there. Openness. Openness. I would have said something a little bit further, but they said no. We'll just be open to what? The forces that create and uphold life. That's to say those people who are all into tearing folks down, calling folks out. I heard an expression I'm going to start using. Instead of calling folks out, call folks back in. I'm going to start using that phrase because I need it. Sometimes I get excited. My spirit starts moving. I want people to be where I am, and I may call them out. Come on. I got Gerald, call them in. Don't call them out. Call them in. So that's those forces, the openness to those forces that create and uphold life. And what we're talking about right there is the synergy of creation. We're talking about the things that come together and make something new. That's what you're called to renew. You renew your spirit and you're open to those forces of creation and upholding life. Those things that are progressive. Yes, progressive. Yay, liberal. Those things that are universal, that are inclusive. Those things that are bringing us together so that we can do something greater than what we can do by ourselves. Church, this is a great faith that you are in. Amen. Amen. I love it. You're moving that spirit. I love it. Yes, this is a great tradition. It's a living tradition. And I have been part of those traditions that were not like this, that were creedal, and that were, my dad used to say, sanctimonious. My dad was the son of a preacher man, and he was not close to the church. I understood. He worked. I used to tell people, my daddy works on Sundays, which he did. He worked on it. But then he changed jobs where he was off on Sundays, and he still didn't go. But I understood. My dad used to talk about the hypocrisy in the church. And that was because it was not a living tradition. It was, these are the rules. And then people would break those rules. And then they would justify the breaking. They'd bend them a little bit, And so that didn't go too well with him. And then people would use politics for their own agenda to get certain folks out of leadership. That sort of thing that goes on in every church. But in this church, in this Unitarian Universalist church, we allow dissent. We allow that. We seek the truth in love, And so you're hearing, you're listening, and you're calling people in. And you're saying, come on, let's work with it. And so because of that, church, you feel like you have a chance in this church. Yes, we fall down, but we get up, church. How can we serve a God that does not forgive? How can we be asked to forgive if we don't have a God who forgives? I'm here to tell you, church, I'm here all the way. I'm going all the way. I will follow. That's the old hymn that says, I will follow you. I will go all the way. I'm all the way. I want you to be all the way. If you understand this, that when you are called to be a present help in time of trouble, when you are called to be the bridge over the troubled water, when you are called to keep on pushing, don't turn back. There's a direct experience right ahead. Check your watches. Amen.
thanks for tuning in online. We are so pleased with all the different people who have been tuning in from all over the country and all over the world to our ministry and what we're doing at All Souls here in Tulsa. If you have a chance to send me an email or connect with me in some way, let me know what you're finding, why you tune in, and what you're getting out of it. I would love to hear from you. I'm always pleased when I get messages from different people who tell me all kinds of things about the impact of All Souls Tulsa's ministry on them and their lives and their families. And if you get a chance to make a gift to support this ministry, to become a partner, we would love to partner with you and have you be a friend of the church and somebody who is actually supporting us to create this congregation and the world that we're trying to create together. You can be a part of it, and every gift of every amount makes a difference. We really appreciate your support.